Before we get into what the police find, and I haven't heard this testimony yet, remember that at 9:38 a.m., the accused was at home with his mother, and we know that because he was wearing an ankle monitor. He left the house at 2:30 p.m. and never returned.
So in State's Exhibit 17, this is a overall photograph just showing the area of the dining room. From this perspective, the kitchen would have been right behind me, but it shows the dining room as well as the stairs leading up to the upper floor.
Was the table set like that when you responded to the crime scene? And if you were to look at State's Exhibit 18, that shows is a better photograph.
Yes, it was set just like that. And basically just in the kitchen overall, there were pots and pans that were in the middle of creating or cooking a meal. Basically one was filled with pasta, another was filled with sauce, there was a salad bowl. So it was in the middle of basically preparing a meal. So the evidence placard number 2 was intended to mark the knife block.
There appears to be a knife missing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that knife found anywhere in the kitchen?
It was not anywhere in the kitchen, no.
What did you find regarding these pots and pans on the stove?
We know that the murder weapon was that knife. That was stated in opening statements. But she was found downstairs. Somebody would have had to have taken the knife and then gone downstairs. She's making the lunch for her son because he's going to prison. At the scene, when the witness found her body, you would have expected, considering her injuries, that there would have been a lot of blood on the stairs or on the walls going down the stairs if the attack started in the kitchen, but there wasn't. So somebody took that knife and went somewhere else and either lured her or waited for her. If the accused was home at the time, and the ankle monitor says he was, they haven't had their lunch yet. If somebody else had broken in, what's he doing? He not going to do anything?
The pots and pans contained food items such as pasta, sauce.
Did that pasta appear to have been cooked?
It did appear to be cooked, yes.
Were the pots and pans, was the stove on when you arrived?
No, it was not.
Mr. Merritt never got his goodbye lunch. Mom was just finishing up cooking it. The stove was off. If somebody's so angry at the whole family because of Mr. Merritt's previous crimes had come in to take revenge, do you think they're going to turn the stove off? If they're so frenzied that they committed the overkill, as we saw, are they going to have the presence of mind or the care to turn the stove off? The argument could be made that she turned the stove off because lunch was ready, and that's when the attack took place. But remember, Mr. Merritt was home. He was home at lunch. That lunch was for him. So if he's going to try and say that, well, somebody else broke in and did this, then why did he not eat the lunch that he had planned with his mother that she cooked for him, his favorite lunch? What, let it sit there until 2:30? This doesn't make sense, right? He was home. This happened at around lunchtime, and he had sent a text earlier at 9:39, 1 minute after he got home from that weird appointment with his daughter and the ex, where the doctor was so concerned about her safety that she walked her through the employee exit and sent the text, or somebody sent the text, to the first witness to stop him from coming down. They're going to have to come up with something better, because I am not seeing how it makes sense that it could be anybody else but the accused at this point.
Yes, on the island on the opposite side consisted of a basically salad bowl as well as a dish containing fruits. So in the right side of her face, there was a knife blade from a chef's knife protruding from it. On the left side of her face, there were basically blood tumors from where it appeared as if she sustained heavy trauma. And there were several areas of just blood and bruising all around her face.
I'm sorry, as your plaque was number 3.
So evidence marker labeled number 3, labeled a black handle or a hilt to a knife. And evidence marker number 4 labeled a 35-pound dumbbell. This was that knife blade that was labeled as evidence marker number 3, or sorry, not the knife blade, but the hilt to the knife that was labeled evidence marker 3.
Did this item appear to be of a size that would match the blade protruding from Miss Merritt's face?
It very well could match the blade to the hilt, yes.
And looking back at State's Exhibit 23, did it appear to be the same size and shape as if it had come out of this knife block?
The hilt was consistent as far as size and shape of coming from that knife block, yes.
I just want to note the language that they use, and consistent or inconsistent. And people want, oh, it's absolutely that one. That's the one. 100%, that's the one. And they can't talk like that. Sometimes people take that to mean, oh, well, it might not be. But of course, all of you viewing know that, right?
State's Exhibit 32 represents a photograph of the 35-pound dumbbell that was labeled as evidence marker 4. You can tell on the left side of the photo, basically on the left to the numbers 35, there was suspected blood on that dumbbell. Evidence marker number 5 was labeling a indention in the carpet that it appeared as though the matching set to that 35-pound dumbbell, it basically appeared that the 35-pound dumbbell had been moved from that location.
Were there any signs of struggle in the basement?
No signs of struggle that I could see, no.
What about in the stairwell where Shirley Merritt's body was laying?
Just aside from that area right directly where she was, no sign of a struggle.
Doesn't it sound like she was ambushed? If some intruder was there, you would have expected for Shirley to fight back. Remember earlier that Shirley was described as a firecracker, and she was with it, I mean, even still working, right? Despite her age. So she's not going to be letting somebody come in and kill her. She's going to fight back. The lack of signs of a struggle is interesting.
In the remainder of the basement or that stairwell, aside from where she was, no blood.
Did you process the remainder of the house?
Yes.
What was the condition of the remainder of the house?
So the remainder of the house was more or less the same as I've described it earlier. It was very well organized, lots of furniture. Every bedroom was well furnished. Everything was immaculately clean. The whole house basically looked very clean and organized. No blood or suspected blood that I could see through the remainder of the house.
Did you see any valuables in the house?
Yes.
No forced entry. No signs of a struggle or fight. The lunch that she was making for Mr. Merritt still on the stove, but prepared. Mr. Merritt was home, and that's indisputable. The ankle monitor puts him at home. I don't see how he's getting around this, right? If there is an intruder, he's not just going to sit there. The weapon was from inside the home. So somebody coming in bent on revenge is going to bring their own weapon. There was overkill. I mean, an attack on her face. The killer wants to obliterate that. The revenge that anybody might have wanted, and that's not been established anywhere, is against Mr. Merritt. So if he's home, why not go for him? If you're so frenzied, you're such a disorganized offender that you engage in this frenzied attack and you're too disorganized to bring your own weapon, why is there not blood everywhere? And the person's DNA and hair everywhere. I mean, we haven't heard that, but if that would have been exculpatory. So if it's there, I think we wouldn't be in a trial right now. Nothing taken. So it's not a robbery. And again, at the time she's making that lunch, Mr. Merritt was home. There is zero doubt that he was there in the house. If somebody had come in and attacked his mother and, I don't know, he was somewhere else in the house, he was sleeping, would he not have called 911? I don't see how the defense is going to get around this. So this is going to be interesting.
And what about cell phones? Did you find any?
There were no cell phones that we found in the house, no.
The victim had a cell phone. So where is it? I'm just jumping in to make a comment so that when you watch the rest of the video, you know what the heck is going on. I sat through a few hours of testimony, made my comments, went to edit it, and as I was taking out the parts that didn't tell you anything new, that weren't helpful, that weren't probative, there was almost nothing left. The CSI and the GBI did a good job. There was no evidence of any foreign fingerprints, no foreign shoe prints, DNA, anything. No forced entry, nothing. There was nothing exculpatory there. And the defense cross didn't produce anything. It didn't even go as far as creating a red herring. There was no point in making you guys sit through hours of testimony when you weren't going to get any new information. So this is why you're not getting a big long video full of interesting forensic evidence. And it's not the forensics that cinches this case anyway. In this particular case, what the DNA and hair and all that could possibly help with is if there was evidence of DNA or hairs or fingerprints that did not belong to the accused, that belonged to somebody who wasn't expected to be there, and there wasn't. The fact that his DNA was or was not found in his own house isn't probative. But let's look at where the facts are. So far, Mr. Merritt cannot be eliminated. So far, there is absolutely nothing that would include somebody else other than him as a suspect. The crime was personal. The weapons were obtained from within the house. Somebody went to the knife block in the kitchen and went downstairs. This wasn't a situation where somebody came in, there was a struggle in the kitchen. You saw nothing was overturned or out of place. It wasn't a fight in the kitchen and somebody grabbed a knife. This wasn't an intruder. There was no intruder. There was no robbery. There was nobody coming in bent on revenge and attacking a 77-year-old woman who had done nothing wrong. It was her son who was the criminal. It was her son who was in the house. It was her son that has a history, a pattern of rage, a bad temper, who has shown himself to be capable of violence, who has shown himself to be callous to victimizing vulnerable people, injured clients, including elderly people, who has that callousness, who drives falling down drunk, who, in spite of stealing all that money, still, for some reason, can't pay his bills. Somebody accustomed to getting whatever he wants. Somebody expecting that his mother, who stood by him when nobody else did, his mother who helped him with everything, expecting that she would either facilitate or at least allow his escape because he didn't want to spend 15 years in jail. When she said no, he blew up. We heard from his ex-wife that he was capable of living this double life and deceiving everyone. But the time when he changed, when that temper got really bad, when he physically assaulted her, it was then that he felt the law closing in on him for all the frauds he had committed. It was then he was thinking, I'm going to get arrested any day. So we know that that's when the rage comes out, that's when he can't keep the lid on it anymore. And on this day, he's going away for 15 years. There was pressure. He was hours away from having to go to jail. The ankle monitor shows that he was there. She was making that lunch for him, his favorite lunch. It was on the stove. The salad was on the counter. No one had eaten anything yet. It makes zero sense that anybody else could have been there and could have done this when he's in the house. If that was the case, he'd be screaming, yeah, I saw this happen. But that's not the case. Already, just with the times and the locations, the prosecution has shown us who did this. And so far, and the trial is not done, I mean, there could be some big surprise. But so far, the defense hasn't come up with even a reasonable theory. The defense tried to paint his ex-wife as this nasty lion ex, trying to make something out of the fact that the accused's blood wasn't on the handle or his fingerprints weren't on the handle. If they were on the handle, the defense could come up with an excuse for that. It's a distraction. It's not the forensics that provides the evidence that he was in the house at the time of the murder, that he had reason. The forensics could have provided exculpatory evidence. And so investigators have to look at it. They have to collect it. But that exculpatory evidence was not there. And the defense will have you look at it and say, what's not there? Oh, gee, Mr. Merritt's DNA and everything isn't there. It doesn't mean anything. That's not where the proof lies. They want you looking there. And they want you looking at that not being there because there's something else not there. Any evidence of anybody else. I mean, the defense might come up with a surprise, but this is not looking good for Mr. Merritt. I think I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you for watching.